and also
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus said to his disciples, "Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have come not to abolish, but to fulfill. Amen, I say to you, until heaven and earth pass away, not the smallest letter or the smallest part of the letter will pass from the law, until all things have taken place. Therefore, whoever breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do so will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever obeys and teaches these commandments will be called greatest in the kingdom of heaven. I tell you, unless your righteousness surpasses that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. You have heard that it was said to your ancestors, 'You shall not kill, and whoever kills will be liable to judgment.' But I say to you, whoever is angry with brother will be liable to judgment. And whoever says to his brother, 'Rakai,' will be answerable to the Sanhedrin. And whoever says, 'You fool,' will be liable to fiery Gehenna. Therefore, if you bring your gift to the altar and there recall that your brother has anything against you, leave your gift there at the altar. Go first and be reconciled with your brother, and then come and offer your gift. Settle with your opponent quickly while on the way to court. Otherwise, your opponent will hand you over to the judge, and the judge will hand you over to the guard, and you will be thrown into prison. Amen, I say to you, you will not be released until you have paid the last penny. You have heard that it was said, 'You shall not commit adultery.' But I say to you, everyone who looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than to have your whole body thrown into Gehenna. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than to have your whole body go into Gehenna. It was also said, 'Whoever divorces his wife must give her a bill of divorce.' But I say to you, whoever divorces his wife, unless the marriage is unlawful, causes her to commit adultery. And whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Again, you have heard that it was said to your ancestors, 'Do not take a false oath, but make good to the Lord all that you vow.' But I say to you, do not swear at all, not by heaven, for it is God's throne, nor by the earth, for it is his footstool, nor by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great King. Do not swear by your head, for you cannot make a single hair white or black. Let your yes mean yes, and your no mean no. Anything more is from the evil one." The Gospel of the Lord.
praise.
Do you have any problem with that reading? It's the gospel. It's telling us to pluck out eyes and cut off hands. It's kind of a bit tough. I'll tell you, to be honest, I kind of have a problem with a lot of those kind of moral things, moral teachings. It's probably mostly because I'm very stubborn. You tell me, do this, and I'll be like, no, thanks a lot, I'll figure it out for myself. And I think that's kind of a universal thing I see in America, especially in our New England society. basically say, this is the command, do it. And so rather than focus on the specifics of the different teachings of Jesus in this Sermon on the Mount, let's take a step back and say, why should we even listen in the beginning? I've come up with 2 reasons why I try to follow the moral precepts that are there in the Scriptures. The first is what I learned when I was a little kid. I didn't like it when I was little, but I'm getting to understand it much more now. And that is, you do it just because. You know, remember your mom would say, come on, go clean your room. You're like, why? And she said, because I told you. And you go, well, that didn't work for me. And Jesus is telling us to do certain moral actions. And you got to understand the source. You go back to who's saying, this is the command. There's going to be a whole lot of voices in our world saying, this is what you're supposed to do. This is how you're supposed to live. This is what happiness is. And I'm not entirely sure all those other voices are true or good or have us and our hearts in their best intentions. Jesus does. He lays out the commandments. He says, do this because he wants us to live. Because he wants us to have life. And so we do the commandments simply because he said so. To me, that's kind of the fallback position. You know, there's so many temptations in this world, and so many allurements that want to draw me apart or draw me aside. And I have to say, no, I'm not going to go down that path because God said, stay on this path. And that's enough of a reason for me. The longer I've lived with the commands of God, the longer I've researched or studied or struggled with them, I have to come back to, he said it, I got to do it. The second reason is, when I do them, I actually am happy. It's kind of a weird thing because my initial reaction would be like, God said, don't do this. I'm like, but that's a lot of fun. It looks like it's going to be really cool if I can do that. And I said, okay, I won't do that. And I find he was right. It makes me happy. It fills me up to live his law. What was the psalmist said? Blessed are they who follow the law of the Lord. That happiness, we don't confuse it with pleasure or giddiness or kind of that surface level of enjoyment. But truly, to live the law of the Lord, to try to give our hearts over and our lives over, not just belief, but morals, makes us happy. What Jesus said about coming to give us life and to have life more abundantly proves to be true on the level of faith and on the level of morals. So as we continue these weeks, as we listen to the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus starts to get very specific, and not only specific, but ratchet up the commandments. Let us try to live them, because he told us to. Because when we do, we are happy, we are more alive.